Welcome, welcome back to my art studio, my channel, and my latter life that I am living out loud. This is my mother, and I'm about to do a portrait of her, and it's gotta be right. It has to do this picture justice. I remember looking at this picture when I was a kid, and I said to myself, nope, I said to her, you think you're cute, don't you? And she just smiled. She just smiled. She didn't answer yay or nay. She just smiled, and that in my mind was yes, of course. It's yes, yes. Anyway, behind that very pretty face was a chemical imbalance. And that chemical imbalance caused her to be paranoid. People were doing things to her, things that in my mind were unreasonable. I've always thought that about the things that she said were happening, but they were happening in her mind. It was true for her and torturous for me. I'm going to interject a trigger warning here. If you are not able to hear about mental health matters and the kinds of things that happen because of mental health matters, it's time for you to either turn the volume down and just watch me paint, or just, you know, go someplace else, because this might not be the conversation for you to hear. And if you have not done so already, please go on and hit the like button. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and subscribe. And by all means, if there's something that you want to talk about, please make a comment in the comment section. The title for this painting is Unthinkable. And I've got to give you some background story on why I chose the title Unthinkable. So, I am a fan of the lead attorney, and he was doing a live stream, and I'm not real sure. Nope, I don't know what the topic was about, but I can tell you some details about this particular stream because it triggered something in me. It triggered something in me. One of the main details I can tell you about is the color of the super chat that the lead attorney received. The super chat came in bright red. And so the writer of the super chat had a question for the lead attorney. So seems he had been let go by his employer because he said in front of the employer that he was going to delete himself. And he wanted to know if the employer was justified in letting him go. Now, I am going to tell you all what I heard. This is not necessarily what the lead attorney said. I'm just telling you what I heard, y'all. So, there were a couple of reasons the lead attorney gave for the employer justly letting them go. Now, again, this is what I heard, not necessarily what the lead attorney said. So, first reason, let's say the employer had a conversation with the employee who was going to delete themselves and figured that the conversation went well and that they had talked them off the ledge, so to speak, and sent them home on their way, thinking everything was good. But then at the Monday morning meeting, when the interns are there, you decide that you gonna, well, the interns that are in that room with you are now suffering a trauma, a set of thoughts and feelings. They've got brain matter all over them, and they're about to face a series of unfortunate thoughts and feelings and all kinds of stuff. And these are the people who now have ought against the employer. Why? Because the employer knew that that could potentially happen. I mean, they didn't know that you would do that, but you coulda, because we're finding second reason. Not only do you want an audience, but sometimes you want to take others with you. You got aught. You might be having paranoid thoughts. You might be suffering from a chemical imbalance. Somewhere in the lead attorney's explanation, the word unthinkable was used, or at least I heard the word unthinkable. We know that our friends, our loved ones are not well, but what we don't know is that they will do an unthinkable act to delete oneself, to bring others along, to be so angry, to be paranoid, and act out are unthinkable acts. They're not something that someone with a healthy, balanced mind frame would think of doing. And so, by definition, they are unthinkable acts. And we don't know that our loved ones will do an unthinkable act, but that is exactly what my mother did. My siblings said that she had a chemical imbalance. I guess I believe them. I used to do research, I used to read a lot. I was the kind of kid who loved learning. I hated school, but I loved learning. And so I would do research on questions that I had. And I had a whole lot of questions as it related to her and her behavior. But she was paranoid. That much I know. As an observer, I know that she was paranoid. People were doing things to her, and it was mainly the utilities. They were stealing her electricity, they were stealing her waters. I don't know if she was having money problems and the stress of that caused her to just be unbalanced in her thinking. But it was just that area right there. Somebody was taking something from her, stealing from her the electricity. And so the time that I spent in the crawl space, that was strategic in her mind. She would have to go out, run errands, and while she was out of the house, I would have to stand guard in the crawl space. Now, this is just a small area of time. This house had a trap door, and there was a crawl space. And I say this house because we moved. She moved. We moved quite a few times. I was a teenager when we were in this house, and I hated this house because in the back bedroom there was a trap door that led to the crawl space under the house. She would ask me to go through the trap door and stand guard. Now, she made it comfortable for me. I had a sleeping bag, radio, television with plenty of batteries. She wanted to make sure that I was, at the very least, entertained while I was down there holding guard, keeping guard. But the thing that would tick me off the most was when she would return. She would go and look and find whatever it is her mind told her was how they would get the electricity. At this point in this house, it was electricity. So how they would get the electricity is that they would put rusty metal around the house, rusty nails, anything, any kind of rusty metal was how they so how stole the electricity. Stealing the electricity? Don't ask me. I don't know. This was her thinking. If you're asking me to understand the mind of a mentally ill person, yeah, no, thank you. I don't think I want to understand the minds of a mentally ill thinker. In this house is where she did the unthinkable. So it was the next door neighbor, the family, the husband, the wife, the children. It was that family. I guess probably the husband. I don't know. I don't know if she ever specified who in the house, but I knew that that was the target. It was them. They were the ones who were stealing the electricity. So this is these are the ones that she targeted, and this is the house where she did the unthinkable. On this day, she was antsy. She was different from her typical self. She was almost giddy. She had gone out and she had bags, and she was fumbling and just active, just different, very different. And I'm watching her. I'm watching her from a distance. I don't necessarily want her to know that I'm watching her, but I am. This particular day, I am watching her. I know now why. I didn't know why then. But she had she pulled a she pulled a torch out of one of the bags. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, what in the world? What in the world? What in the world?" Still not thinking that. I don't know what she's doing. Okay? She's outside. She's doing stuff. She's fit. She's just active. She's back and forth in the house, and again, she's fidgety. She's active. She's nervous. She's nervous, is what she is. She knows what she is about to do, but as an observer, of course, and because I'm not a mind reader, I don't know. Okay, and then the darkness comes. She goes out the back door. But I don't follow her to the back door because I don't want her to come back in the house and catch me watching her. I really want to see what she's doing. So there's another way. But I can't see her, not from the window, the very large window, picture pane window that faces the neighbor's house. There's a large alleyway between it, but not large enough for me to see her and what she's doing in the back area there. And then I don't even this was hours later. It is dark now. And she's come back in the house, and she's kind of calming down, but not really. Not I don't know. I don't know what happened between her coming in the house and me coming to understand that the house next door was on fire. I don't know what happened in that space and in that time. I don't even know how much time went by between the time that she stopped doing whatever she was doing in the back and when I came to understand that the house next door was on fire. My mother, the one who had raised me in the church, my mother who dragged me to church with her every time the church doors were opened, my mother who was a lady all the time, always looked good, always smelled good. My mother, who would cook clean, made sure that I had everything that I needed. My mother, who nurtured me and kept me safe, had set the neighbor's house on fire. I was 17. I had graduated from high school. It was June. My mother had given me some ultimatums. She had gone out to run some errands, and while she was out, I made a phone call. I called the angel of my life, which is another story for another video. I asked her if I could come and stay. With a welcoming attitude, she agreed. I packed my bags, and when my mother walked in the door from running her errands, I walked out of the door and into the best summer of my life. In the next house, she got a license to carry, and she purchased a pistol. In this house, I stayed away as much as possible. I found things to do outside of the house because in this house, she was angry, and her anger was directed towards me. What did I do, you ask? I got the heck out of her way. That's what I did. I found other places to go, other places to be. And really, where I found myself mostly was at the angel of my life, her house. She lived the scriptures. There's a word that says we walk by faith and not by sight. She walked by faith and not by sight. I saw this woman pray. I saw her pray through tight times. I learned the power of prayer. And so, as I am doing this video, science says that people with personality disorders do not, cannot be cured from it. It is something that will be with them always. But then there is a word that says, Ephesians 6 and 12, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So, what does that scripture mean for me? How does it relate to my life and what I'm seeing in front of me? I was angry. I was angry with her, my mother, because I thought she was weak. I thought she was weak in that she could not control her mind. She could not manage those thoughts, those particular thoughts. Science says there's a chemical in the brain that is misfiring, off balanced, missing, deficient. I don't know. I don't know. The Word of God says that we do not wrestle against flesh and blood. The first word I focused on was we. I'm included in that. Wrestle. The second word, wrestle. And then I happened upon some history of the word wrestle. This wrestle is not some mamby-pamby tug of war. No, this wrestle is a fight. Eye gouging, weapons with flesh pulling nails, and this is all out war. We wrestle. I wrestle. I am in a fight, not with her. My fight is not with her. My fight is with principalities. My fight is with powers against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And I know this to be true. Why? Because I have been wrestling my whole and entire life. These things have been around me. I've seen it. Remember, y'all, I was raised in the church. This is what I saw. This is what I believe. I believe that I have been wrestling. I have been wrestling with. That's, you know what? That's why the word gives us the weapons that we need in order to fight this battle, this present darkness.